Hello, I'm Erica from Ballotpedia, your source for nonpartisan, neutral, and unbiased information on United States politics, elections, and policy. In this video, we'll explain the concept of budget reconciliation, which is a legislative process that can be used to override the filibuster and expedite the approval of a package of legislation in Congress that changes spending, revenues, or the debt limit. Let's break down what that means, how budget reconciliation works, and why it matters. Simply put, budget reconciliation is a special process in Congress that's used to speed up the passage of legislation related to the federal budget. Things like spending, taxes, and the debt limit. You're probably wondering what makes this special. Well, unlike most bills in the Senate, reconciliation bills have limits on debate and cannot be blocked by a filibuster. This means they only need a simple majority to pass, 51 votes instead of the usual 60. At present, Republicans have a 53 to 47 majority in the Senate and a 218 to 215 majority in the House. Now, why is this important? In today's political landscape, it can be challenging to get 60 senators to agree on anything. Budget reconciliation offers a way to pass important budget-related legislation with a simple majority. This can be especially crucial when one party controls the House, Senate, and presidency, but doesn't have that supermajority in the Senate. It allows them to move forward on their budget priorities. Between 2010 and 2024, Democratic trifectas passed 3 budget reconciliation bills. Republican trifectas passed 1, and 1 was passed by a Republican-controlled Congress and vetoed by a Democratic president in a divided government. Reconciliation is most frequently used when one party has trifecta control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency, but does not have a 60% majority in the Senate. Now, let's take a look at how budget reconciliation actually works. It all starts with a budget resolution. This is a plan passed by both the House and the Senate that sets out the government's broad spending and revenue goals. If the budget resolution includes what are called reconciliation instructions, it directs specific congressional committees to come up with legislative proposals that change existing laws to meet those budgetary goals. These committees will then draft their proposals, which are often combined into one big omnibus reconciliation bill. Because of the way budget resolutions are passed, these cannot be filibustered in the Senate. The process for budget resolutions limits debate to 50 hours, preventing filibuster, and can be brought to a vote and approved by a simple majority in both the House and the Senate, similar to reconciliation bills. Now, there are some important limitations on what can be included in a reconciliation bill. These bills are in place to make sure that the process is only used for budget-related items. One of the most important limitations is the Byrd Rule. This rule allows senators to change provisions in a reconciliation bill that they believe are extraneous, meaning that they don't directly affect the budget. The Senate parliamentarian plays a key role here, advising the vice president on whether a provision violates the Byrd Rule. If any senators believe provisions in the reconciliation omnibus bill or in proposed amendments to the bill are extraneous to the reconciliation directives, they can raise a point of order under the Byrd Rule. A point of order under the Byrd Rule is a motion to delete the specified provision before consideration is resumed. The Vice President, as the presiding officer of the Senate, rules on Byrd Rule points of order. The Senate parliamentarian advises the Vice President on Byrd Rule points of order. Congressional committees are integral to the reconciliation process. They're responsible for drafting the specific legislative proposals that ultimately become part of the reconciliation bill. These directives are not as specific to what types of legislation the committees are supposed to draft. Rather, they provide guidelines for what sort of monetary effect the legislation should have. Budget resolutions call for reconciliation using clauses called reconciliation directives. If these directives are included in the budget resolution, The House and Senate committees that receive them draft bills to change laws within their jurisdiction that affect spending, tax, and debt limits so that the proposed budgetary goals can be accomplished. Reconciliation directives are not specific as to what types of legislation the committee are supposed to draft. Rather, they provide guidelines for what sort of monetary effect the legislation should have. Reconciliation instructions can be specific or general. Instructions on revenue and spending have been combined to provide instructions to decrease or increase the deficit. The reconciliation bill must follow the instructions of the reconciliation directive. The reconciliation process affects the House and Senate differently. The reconciliation process does not affect procedures in the House as much as it does in the Senate because the House does not have the 60% vote requirement for ending debate and bringing a bill to the floor for a vote as the Senate does. During the consideration of reconciliation bills, as with other significant legislation, the House Rules Committee usually sets limitations for debate and amendments. Reconciliation bills are unique in the Senate because they can be moved to a floor vote and passed by a simple majority, bypassing the 60% cloture requirement. This is because they are not subject to the filibuster due to the 20-hour time limit on floor debate and the requirement that any proposed amendments be relevant. The filibuster is a strategy of preventing or delaying action on a bill in the Senate by speaking at length on a proposal, introducing multiple procedural motions, or engaging in other obstructive actions. To end debate on a non-reconciliation bill and end a filibuster, which could be continued indefinitely, 60% of the Senate has to vote in favor. So that's budget reconciliation in a nutshell. It's a complex process, but it's a crucial tool that Congress uses to manage the federal budget. If you want to dive deeper into this topic, we've got a lot more information for you on our website at ballotpedia.org/budget resolution. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe for more nonpartisan, fact-based information on America's politics and elections.